Hey everyone, Rico Berg, realtor with Bridgewell Real Estate Group, and today is Saturday, July 11th. It is a rainy, gloomy weekend, as you can see by the lighting in my room right now, but I am going to try and tackle a very big task for you guys, which is summing up the real estate market during right now, COVID and everything that's going on. We just got the June stats from the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver. Typically, they send out those stats somewhere between like the 4th to the 9th of the month for the previous month, with all the information on sales, new listings, all that jazz. So I did just want to summarize that for you guys. And I will also let you know that at Bridgewell Real Estate Group, we send out a monthly stats update on the 10th of every month. So if you want to stay up to date for that, just go to my website, bridgewellgroup.ca, and sign up for the newsletter, and we will make sure that you guys get updated on the real estate board stats for the Greater Vancouver area all the time. And so I did just want to start this video by not doing a cop-out, but letting you know that this video by no means whatsoever is, declaring the direction of where I think that the real estate market is going to go. I am literally just interpreting the stats that the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver gives to us as realtors directly, providing you guys some personal experience, and then also just giving you my opinion on some things. So, if you are going to leave a comment, just make sure that you leave it with compassion and that in mind. And also, I really, really want to let you guys know that micro market data is so important. Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, when they say REBGV stats, they are including everything. They're including, Vancouver, New Westminster, Burnaby, Coquitlam, Port Moody, Port Coquitlam, all these places all in one. And all of those markets are very, very different. And so this is general information. And that's really important for you to keep in mind, regardless of whether you're a seller or a buyer, because, not just in terms of location are things very different, also the type of home that you're dealing with. If you're dealing with a condo or a townhouse or detached homes, those three markets work very differently. So, this information is generic information. I think it's still helpful information, but if you guys are looking for micro data for your type of home, for your area, for your neighborhood, whatever that is, I'm more than happy to help you. So feel free to reach out to me directly, whether you're buying or selling, and I can make sure to provide you with micro market data. But for today, I am going to try and provide you with some generic information, and then also my interpretation of why things might be happening. So starting off with sales, and this is really the big media headline. People were talking about, in June, there's been a 64% increase in month-to-month sales compared to May. And that is true, but I think that, even though, yes, there is a positive increase on a year-to-year basis, we have to kind of take that a little bit with a grain of salt, because obviously things were slower in April and May for obvious reasons. And when you look at the 10-year average, we're still 21% below the 10-year average for sales. So, the market is definitely picking up. Sales are happening much more so than April and May, but take it with a grain of salt. And I don't think that it's necessarily like, oh my gosh, things are going back to normal. And by no means whatsoever is this a normal market. It's actually a very uncertain market. And to be quite frank, it's a little bit hard to navigate. Sometimes, we think we're going to get multiple offers, and we're definitely seeing a lot of multiple offers. But then, sometimes you have a great product and you think that it's going to go multiple, and nobody shows up on offer presentation day. So it's a little bit hit or miss. And it's not just like, oh, the market's doing so great and we're moving on to a full recovery. I will say that, some of the busiest selling seasons are April and May, and that's really when the spring market takes off. And we didn't have that in April and May because, COVID, and there was a lot of fear, and, it was a hard time to navigate. But I think that what we're seeing right now in June, and probably moving towards into July, now that we're halfway through the month, is we're seeing all that pent up demand from what should have been the spring market, filtering into June. And I really do think that we probably are going to see that continue all the way throughout July and probably into August. August, is very, very common to have a lot of completions and not as many sales because, realtors go on vacation, people go on vacation before school starts. It's very common to just see more move-ins rather than people actually buying during that time. So we'll see what happens, and if this kind of delayed spring market does keep on going into August, and I could see that happening with these travel restrictions in place. So I think that that's something to keep in mind. With new listings, supply in general, this really depends on the product. Detached listings, townhouses, and condos specifically are all being affected differently with regards to supply and new listings. On a month-to-month basis for June of 2020 compared to, say, May of 2020, we have seen a bounce back 38% on a month-to-month basis, and we're actually near normal levels for June. But all in all, supply remains pretty low. Pre-COVID, we were dealing with low supply, and there's been a significant amount of listings decrease in April and May. And if you watched my last video on this, when I talked about real estate prices and whether or not they've gone down because of COVID, all in all, prices have held really firm. And this is true from March, April, May, June. You look at the real estate stats, there are some areas, again, micro markets are very important. There are some areas that have increased. I know, the detached market in the Tri-Cities is doing very, very well and has been doing well the whole way through. And, yes, there has been some pullback in some areas, but as a whole, when you look at the average data, prices have remained very firm all the way throughout the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver. In my last video, I talked about, why I think that is to a certain extent. And, at the end of March, when we were, closing down and things were peak fear, you still had a very good amount of people that had already sold their homes, that were very motivated, that now needed to buy. And it's not like they just disappear. They still need to buy a home. And at that time, we already had low inventory pre-COVID. And then you had a lot of home sellers pull their homes off the market, decrease the inventory even further. And even though you had a number of buyers that were speculative or maybe didn't need to buy, and it was safer to stay home, which I completely support, but there were definitely still people that, were in a situation where they had already sold their home and needed to buy. So they were motivated, and we had a combination of motivated buyers that were out there at that time and low supply. And I think that's actually why we saw prices increasing in some areas, and a lot of places have held firm. Same with April and May. We had low inventory, not a lot of new listings out there. So when people were going out to shop, they didn't have a lot of options. And for that reason, from a negotiation standpoint, sellers were able to hold a little bit more firm. So that's some interpretation on that. Detached market, things are doing really good in terms of prices. We have low supply, and I think it's because, a lot of people are having a hard pill to swallow with these strata insurance premiums coming through. We're really having a complete crisis when it comes to condo insurance. And I did talk about this in another video, and I will leave a link to a video describing what is going on with the strata insurance premiums and deductibles and all that jazz. But we saw the condo market for new listings surge. And really what we're seeing here for June is this surge in condo supply is really just pent up supply from people dealing with these strata insurance issues, in my opinion, a little bit earlier on in the year. And all of these, insurance policies for these stratas are now coming up, and they're having conversations about increasing maintenance fees significantly to cover these insurance premiums, or special levying people and, taking money out of the operating surplus if the strata is lucky enough to do that. But the only thing to really do sustainably for the strata to cover these insurance premiums, because they're not going away, is to increase the maintenance fees significantly. And so I had a condo in Burnaby, for example, and the maintenance fees were already $461 per month. And that's not including heat. That's not including, gas or anything like that. And then all of a sudden you have the insurance expire, and, the maintenance fee goes up over that $500 mark. That affects a lot of people, not just you as a homeowner and what you can afford. That's one thing on its own. But you also have to realize from a selling standpoint, this can affect the affordability for the buyer to purchase your home, which can then in turn potentially bring down prices, right? The value of your home is affected if your maintenance fee is out of this world. So going above that $500 mark, and then say, for example, with that situation where you also have to pay the heat, you also have to pay gas or whatever, and then you have your monthly mortgage payment, you have your living expenses. Like, that can be a lot for people. And that's really an issue that we're seeing in the condo market right now. So you have a lot of people that, are having troubles with this insurance premium, or freaked out about the insurance premiums rising. And in BC as a whole, statistically, I think they were saying like there's been a 40% increase in these insurance premiums and 50% in Vancouver. That's a lot for a strata to deal with when they're working with their operating budget. Like, where do they get that money? The only way that they can sustain an increase of that amount is to also increase the maintenance fees to then cover the operating budget. So it's a big problem. I think that's why we're seeing a lot of people bow out of the condo market, and the deductibles is a whole other conversation. And moving into something more like a townhouse where, yes, you're still dealing with strata insurance premiums, but you're not necessarily seeing deductibles as high or increases as drastic. Or just completely skipping the townhouse step and trying to move to a detached home if they're able to. So this is some of what I'm seeing. And then also, with people talking about a second wave, just a lot of people having conversations about space, wanting more space. I know that the tech industry, for example, one of my clients was telling me that a lot of them are moving over to work from home permanently. So people are less worried about, distance to, say, Vancouver, and are okay with somewhere like Langley, for example. So there's a lot going on there. There's a lot happening. There's definitely also a lot of uncertainty. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, but I think that that's definitely why we've seen a surge in condo supply. Is because of these strata related issues. So that's really what I wanted to tell you guys about all that. Hopefully I summarized that well. And then I did want to finish with a question that I know a lot of people have been asking me about, and it's foreclosures. I don't know necessarily what's going to happen. Obviously, we have a lot of mortgage deferrals that were being done, and there is an obvious reason to ask whether or not there are potentially going to be foreclosures down the road. But I think that what we have to keep in mind in this is that in BC, the foreclosure process is quite a long process. A lot of the times it can be 12 to 15 months from when you actually miss that payment to, when we're starting to see things go through the court order process and it being on the market. And I also know from experience with other clients as well that a lot of the times the banks give the homeowners an option to sell it on their own first, and in that situation you'd be looking at just like a standard market value situation. And so I don't really see these types of sales coming up on the market until a little bit of a lag, maybe 1 to a few years down the road. But we will definitely see if this ends up becoming a really big issue. You could certainly see foreclosures on the market. But whether or not it's something that I would necessarily wait for as a buyer and hold off, I think that with the other data that we have with regards to sales, prices holding really firm, and all this information, I don't know if it's worth holding off on. It's kind of a personal decision that you have to make. But I know that COVID certainly hasn't affected the real estate market in terms of prices as much as a lot of people had thought it would. But we will certainly see what happens moving forward, and if a second wave hits us even harder, I don't know the answer to that. But again, prices as a whole have remained fairly firm. Condo supply has increased and prices have been affected a little bit, but definitely pay attention to micro data because that is the most important thing. Sub areas are working so drastically differently. Like, for example, Millardville, that market is so different that even just the same Coquitlam city, but neighborhood at Burke Mountain, those two areas are drastically different. And again, guys, condo market is different than the townhouse market. Townhouse is different than the detached market. So really take all of this information with a grain of salt. But I will say that the market is doing well overall, in my opinion. I would love to hear what other realtors are experiencing. If you are a realtor and you watch the channel, please let me know what you're experiencing in your markets down below. If you're a buyer or a home seller out there and you've experienced multiple offers, if you experience no offers, if you're experiencing anything, I'd like to hear what you have to say about it as well. And of course, if you have any questions, if you'd like a free market evaluation on your home and you're thinking about selling, or you're looking into purchasing a property and you want my opinion on what is going on in that area that you are looking to purchase, I would definitely be more than happy to help you. Again, my name is Mariko Berg, and I am a realtor with Bridgeville Real Estate Group. We are based in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and my micro market, I would say, is the Tri-Cities, so Port Moody, Coquitlam, and Port Coquitlam, but a lot of our business is online and referral, and that seems to have no borders lately. I've been in Burnaby a lot lately, New Westminster, I've been in Maple Ridge, Oaten, Surrey, I have clients right now. So it's a little bit all over the place, just like the market, all over the place, but I would be more than happy to help you if you had any questions. So I hope that this video was helpful, guys. I will try and keep you updated with real estate market updates as we get them. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter already, definitely go to my website, bridgevillegroup.ca, and check it out. Subscribe to the channel, comment down below. I have a lot of good stuff coming for you guys, and I'll continue to keep you updated with all things real estate. So thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Enjoy the weekend.